Okay, everyone, and welcome to our third page. This is going to be number 15, maybe through 22, maybe through 25. We'll just see how this goes. But it says solve for the volume of the composite figures. So what are composite figures? Composite figures are figures that have been put together. So to compose music means to put different things together in music. To compose figures means to put different shapes together. And so we do want to round our answers to the nearest tenth. And so what we're going to do is we're going to color code these, of course. Y'all know I like to color code. And so what we're going to do is we're going to find the volume of the shape on top, which I'm going to call the green prism. So I'm going to do that in a different color. I'm going to call that the green prism. So that is going to be the volume of the prism on top. What is the volume of a prism? It's going to be its base times its height. And then we have the volume of the prism on the bottom. And then what are we going to do with those two amounts? We're going to add those two together. So we've got our green prism and we've got our blue prism. And so how do I find the volume of the blue prism, or the green prism on top? It's going to be my base, which is going to be a 6 by, what is this piece? Oh, it's not there. But what faces the same way as that? That also has a number on it, 8. So I get to bring that 8 up here. So 6 times 8 is going to give me my base. So 6 times 8 is going to give me, so I'm going to write that down. Base equals 6 times 8, since it's a rectangle. That's going to give me 48. And then what is my height of that prism? My height of that prism is 3. So what is 48 times 3? 48 times 3 is 144. And so my volume of my green prism is 144 centimeters cubed of volume. Okay, so now we're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to find the volume of the blue prism. So let's go ahead and do that. What is the volume of the blue prism? Well, this is an 18 by 8 rectangle. So that's going to be the base equals 18 times 8 in blue. That's going to give me a base of 144. So 144 times the height of that. That height of that blue prism is 12. So 144 times 12 is going to give me a blue prism of 1728. So that's going to give me 1728 centimeters cubed. What do we do for our two amounts? We're going to add them together. So that's going to be 144 plus 1728. We're going to add this one to this one. And when we add those together, we're going to get a total of 1872 centimeters cubed of volume. So 1,872 centimeters cubed. It's just saying like how much water would fit in each of these shapes combined, and it would be 1,872. So that's 2 prisms. All right, but what about on this next picture? So on this next picture, I'm going to color code again. I'm going to make the bottom of this one green. There's my green base. So what's that first shape? That first shape is going to be a pyramid. So what is the volume of a pyramid formula? You don't have to memorize it. Go to your formula sheet if you need to. Go look at it. Go find the volume of a pyramid. It is going to be base times height divided by 3. And so when I go to find that base, this is a 10 by 10 base. You can see it because it's written on the bottom as well. So what is 10 times 10? That's going to give me 100. Let's just write it like we did before. 100 times the height of that pyramid. What's the height of that pyramid? It tells me it's 13. And then we're going to divide that by 3. So that's going to be 1,300 divided by 3. That is going to give me a volume of 433.3, when I round it, meters cubed for my pyramid. Now we want to find the volume of that bottom shape. So what is that volume of the bottom shape? That is a prism. And so that's just going to be base times height. So what's my base? We've already found it. Base is 10 times 10, which is 100. And then what's the height of the prism? The height of the prism is 10. If I remember right, we had a problem like this in class, if not the exact same one. So that gives me 1,000 meters cubed for my prism. And so I'm going to add together my two volumes. That is going to give me 1,000 plus 433.3. That is going to give me 1,433.3 meters cubed of volume on this shape. So those are my composite figures. We're just putting together different shapes. All right, solve for the indicated values, round final answers to the nearest tenth. So you're going to see that these don't have pictures. A standard volleyball has a diameter of 8.2. When it is full of air, what is the surface area of the volleyball? Well, first thing you need to acknowledge is that this is going to be a sphere. Whenever it talks about a ball, that's a sphere. So what is the surface area formula for a sphere? Go get it from the formula sheet if you need it. 4 pi r squared. In fact, I encourage you to check it before you actually do the problem. Surface area is going to be equal to, we need the radius. Well, I right now currently have my diameter. So if my diameter is 8.2, what is my radius going to be on that shape? It's going to be 8.2 divided by 2, which is going to be 4.1 inches. So that's going to be 4 times pi times 4.1 inches squared. So again, when I type that in my calculator, I think they want us to know it says to round to the nearest tenth. So we get to type the whole thing in. Since we're rounding to the nearest tenth, you're going to type into 4, the pi symbol, and then times 4.1 squared. That gives me 211. You know what, I'm going to do both. I'm going to do in terms of pi and rounded just so that my students can see how you get that same thing. So this is going to be 67.24 pi, and it does say to round it, which rounds to 211.2, what are my units? Inches squared of surface area. 211.2 inches squared. Since it tells us to round, we do need to actually round that out. Okay. For these real world problems, they tend to like you to round them. All right, it says a can. So the first thing I'm going to note is that a can is a cylinder. Has a diameter of 16, so I'm going to underline that. We're just finding the relevant information. And it has a height of 10. What is the volume available for storage in the can? So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go get our volume formula. In a can, that is going to be base times height. And so how do I find my base? Well, it's a circle, so it's going to be pi r squared. So pi r squared times our height. And so we need our radius and we need our height. Well, we have our height, but we don't have our radius. So to find our radius, if the diameter is 16, the radius is going to be equal to 8 centimeters. You can draw this out if you'd like. You can give us a quick sketch. That's going to be pi times 8 squared times my height, and my height is 10. And so that's going to be 8 squared times 10. 8 squared times 10 gives me 640 pi. But it does say to actually round out this volume to the nearest tenth. So I'm going to multiply that times pi, and that's going to give me about 2010.6 centimeters cubed of volume. So you could always draw out this picture if you need to. If in doubt, draw it out. It doesn't have to be perfect. You're not trying to win an award here. Here's my cylinder. It had a radius of 8, so that's the only thing I'm going to be putting on the picture so I don't get distracted. It had a height between those bases of 10. So you can always draw that out if you need to. Okay, if you need a visual for this previous one, the volleyball, draw a circle, draw like a little bow out here, and then draw a little dot, 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 dot. There's my cylinder. Radius was 4.1. So 4.1. Okay. All right, surface area of a beach ball. So we're doing another ball here. So if you'd like to draw that again, feel free to draw a circle. And then this helps some people. It doesn't help others. So if you can jump straight to the picture, that's totally fine. There's my radius. Of course, we know we're going to end up needing our radius because that's in the surface area formula and it's in the volume formula. But this one's interesting. This actually gives me the surface area. So what do we know the surface area formula is? Surface area formula of a ball, you could look at the top, 4 pi r squared, but it gives me the surface area. So what can I fill in for surface area? 5538.96. And so I can set that equal to 4 pi r squared. It gives me the answer and asks me to work backwards and find the radius. And so the first thing I need to do is acknowledge that I want to get my r squared by itself. So who's in the way that needs to get out the way and move? The 4 pi. So what's the opposite of multiplying by 4 pi? Dividing by 4 pi. Since I'm dividing by more than one thing at a time, to make this quicker, make sure to put it in parentheses. So 5538.96 divided by parentheses 4 pi. Close parentheses, click enter. That is going to be, because this 4 pi cancels out, that is going to be about 440.77, and then it keeps going, going, going. That's what r squared is equal to. Now we want to take the square root of both sides. So I'm going to leave that number in my calculator. I'm going to type in the square root. I'm going to recall that answer, that 440.77 number, exactly by clicking second ANS. You click enter, and that gives me 20.99, which is going to round up to about 21.0. Centimeters, because the radius is just centimeters to the first power. I do want to change that for my key. Sorry, guys. 21.0 centimeters. So there's my radius. You could just write 21 centimeters. You do you, boo. It's just that I like to show people that, hey, this has been rounded. It wasn't exactly 21. It rounded up to 21. So I like to put my 0.0. Okay. All right, let's do the next one. A glass square base pyramid. Y'all, this is specific. A glass square base pyramid sits in front of the entrance to the museum. This makes way more sense. They artsy. If the pyramid is 35 meters wide at the base, I'm going to have to draw this out. So it does say it's square, so here we go. My artistic abilities are not going to be fabulous. So since it's a square, it says it's 35 meters wide at the base. So it's going to be a 35 by 35 meters. And it is 20.6 meters tall. So I'm going to go ahead and do my height. It's going to be 20.6 for my height. And then I'm just going to draw these coming to a triangle from here to here. Doesn't have to be perfect. And what is the minimum amount of glass needed to construct this pyramid? So you've got it. This is a little bit tricky. What is the amount of glass needed? Not the space inside, not how many kids could play inside. That's not safe. How much glass do I need to construct this thing? So that is going to be surface area. And so this is going to be the surface area of a pyramid. Surface area of a pyramid is going to be perimeter times slant height divided by 2 plus the base. So let's figure out how much glass we need to make this beautiful pyramid sculpture, whatever this is. Let's see. Glass square base pyramid. So it's sitting in front of the museum so you can see through it, which is pretty cool. So what is the perimeter going to be? 35 times 4. What is 35 plus 35 plus 35 plus 35? Or just 35 times 4. 35 times 4 all the way around town is 140. I literally trace that every time. It helps me to remember it. And so now I need my slanted height. Well, currently I don't have my slanted height, okay? So I'm actually going to move my 20.6 to where it goes in the picture. So let me just kind of move that over just a little bit. 20.6 is actually going to go right here next to the height. We need, goodness, there's a lot going on, y'all. I should have drawn this bigger. 20.6. We need our slanted height. So I'm going to have to find the L. And so this is going to go halfway across. And so halfway across of 35 divided by 2 is going to give me 17.5. And I'm going to use Pythagorean theorem on this. So I'm going to do 20.6 squared plus 17.5 squared equals L squared. And so I'm going to type that in, 20.6 squared plus 17.5 squared. That is going to give me my L is going to be equal to the square root of 730.61. So I'm going to leave that as exact. Square root of 730.61. This is divided by 2 because these are triangular glass walls. And then the area of the base is going to be 35 squared, which gives me 1225 for my area of that base. That base is going to be a 35 by 35. And so I'm going to do square root of 730. Sorry, guys, my laundry is ready. Times 140 divided by 2 plus 1225. Okay, so what is my surface area? How much glass do I need at a minimum to construct this thing? That is going to give me 3,117.1 meters squared, since this is surface area of glass. And so we rounded at the very, very end. And so since this is the surface area, we need 3,117.1 meters squared of glass. Okay. All right, let's do 21. The volume of a sphere is given. Okay, so what is the volume of a sphere formula? Volume of a sphere formula, you could look it up at the top, 4 pi r cubed over 3. So what is the volume that's given? Well, they give me one right here. So I'm going to fill that in, 696.91. I set that equal to my volume formula, 4 pi r cubed over 3. And we want to solve for the diameter, so I'm going to have to solve for the radius first. So we said the first step was we need to get into this numerator. So who do I need to get rid of? I need to get rid of the denominator. So what is the opposite of dividing by 3? I'm going to multiply by 3 on both sides. And when I do that, I'm going to get 696.91 times 3. That is going to give me 2,090.73 equals 4 pi r cubed. So again, we want to get r cubed by itself. So then we need to get rid of the 4 pi. So what's the opposite of times 4 pi? We're going to divide by 4 pi, but since I'm dividing by more than one thing, make sure you put it in parentheses. That is a step a lot of people miss. 2090.73 divided by parentheses 4 pi. If you don't want to do parentheses, you could always divide by 4 and then divide by pi. That's going to give me, what pops up? 166.375 dot, 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 dot. That is what r cubed is equal to. We want to find r, so that's going to be the cubed root of that. So again, you're going to take the cubed root of it. So you're going to do 3 second x root. Okay. Enter. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take the cubed root of that. So we're going to go, depending on what calculator you have, 3 second x root, and then you recall that answer. For me, I'm working with my graphing calculator, so I'm going to push the cubed root button, and I'm going to recall my previous answer. Okay, so when you do that, that is going to be for cubed root of that 166 number. That is going to be, let me type it in one more time, divided by 4 pi. All right, so my radius is going to be about 5.5. So if my radius is about 5.5 centimeters, what is my diameter? It's going to be that times 2. So it's going to be about 11 centimeters, or about 11.0, however you want to do that. It's about 11. All right, we are going to do number 22 and then take a break because I am losing my voice. I talked all day at school, and then I talked at home with my children, and now I'm talking here. So it's not that I'm sick, I promise. I'm just losing my voice. All right, so we have a cylinder. So if you want to draw this out, you can. Cylinder has 2 circular bases. So we know for a cylinder we need our radius and we need our height. So there's my height. Here's my radius. So I need to take a sip of water. Obviously, I'm struggling. It has a height of 4 millimeters, 4 mm, and it has a volume of 64. What is the radius of the base? So let's go ahead and start with my formula. What is the formula for the volume of a cylinder? It's going to be volume equals 4 pi. Nope, no, it's not. It's a cylinder, not a sphere. What is the volume of a cylinder? Goodness, it is going to be base times height. Okay, and so since it's a cylinder, it's always a circular base. That's going to be pi r squared. My h stands for the height between those 2 bases, and I'm going to set that equal to my volume. Well, it gives me my volume, guys, so I get to fill that in for v. 64 is my volume. We still got our pi going. We want to know what is the radius, and leave that as r squared. But we're given our height. We're given that our height is 4. So again, we want to get r squared by itself. And so what we're going to do is we're going to get rid of everything else. And so what do I need to do? I need to divide by 4 pi on both sides. Because I'm dividing by more than one thing, I put it in parentheses. You know what? Let's make this match the previous, so my key matches. Divide by 4 pi on both sides. Put it in parentheses. That looks terrible. My goodness. There we go. Divide by 4 pi on both sides so that the 4 and the pi cancel out. Pi cancels, 4 cancels. And so then we get r squared is equal to 64 divided by 4 pi. Make sure that thing is in parentheses, 4 pi. And if not, you can do divide by 4 and then divide by pi. And you're going to get about 5.1. Goodness gracious, sorry guys. That's what r squared is equal to, about 5.09, which is about 5.1. Okay, so then we want to take the square root of that. So actually, I'm going to go ahead and write this. This was 5.0929 dot, 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 dot. For my students, we didn't round it to the very, very end. So we're going to take the square root of that number. So do second root, recall the answer. And that's going to be about 2.3 when I round it. So my radius is going to be about 2.3. What are my units? Millimeters. 2.3 millimeters. We're going to pause there because I need a sip of water, and I hope you're having a great night. Thank you for dealing with me.